Hello everyone, welcome to Keystone Academia. So today we'll be discussing last section of P3 risk management, that is cybersecurity. So as we know guys, cyber risk is one of the increasing factor in today's world, whether it is for individual or an organization. In fact, it is regarded as one of the top risk in 21st century for the organizations. So cybersecurity plays an important role. We have one section which is divided into three chapters. So the first chapter starts with cybersecurity threats. So in this chapter, we'll see what are the types of threats usually an organization faces on day-to-day basis and how we can segregate the threats, understand it to better manage. So in the following chapter 9 and 10, we'll see how we can control the threats or mitigate the threats. Or in short, we can say how we can manage the risk. All right, so let's get started. So first thing is to manage the threat, we should know what type of information we have. Usually cyber threat means our data, our information is in danger. So usually the information kit can be divided into three sectors. First is personal, business, second, third classified. Personal means it is also known as PI, personal identifiable information. So information to identify, contact or locate a single person. For example, it can be a person's name, it can be person's address, which is very specific. In this case, it can be person's CIMA ID. That is also personal identifiable information. Then another one is business information, like what information we have, research data or plan, marketing plan, budgeting, which is usually confidential. Then we have classified information, which is very specific to the organization, or let's say it is some government information. All of that becomes classified. So we have information in our organization which can be something which can be public and others which can be classified. And even it can be classified for a specific employees in an organization. So we need to safeguard all this type of information. Again, we'll have a different regulation in different countries, how we can manage this information. Next is we need to understand what technology usually we interact in business, irrespective of the industry. Usually every business will have an ERP system that we need to safeguard. VPN, what we use. Excuse me. Then different service providers like cloud providers is there, call center is there, and how we deliver business, that also affects like online retailer, wholesaler, all of those. First, we can start with why there is a need of cybersecurity. Let's say there is an organization, they are doing good, they have basic level of security. What can make them invest or come up with a cyber security strategy separate? So usually this happen when there is a changes. Some of the type of changes that can lead to increase in cyber security need or cyber threats are, first thing is expansion. When we expand, let's say from one geography, we are going to next geography, or we grow our business. In fact, expansion and the second one, acquisition, is very closely linked because usually the expansion is done via acquisition, especially well-established company. Very rarely they'll do it organically. Next thing is restructure. When the business is restructured, reporting lines have been changed. All of this can also affect. Then hardware update. Old hardware must be disposed of securely. So what hardware we have now, we are replacing it with the new one. So which one we can take in and how we are disposing of the previous one. That also will affect. Then regulation. For example, in Europe, we have general data protection regulation. So that will give a very strict guidelines for an organization, how they can come up with the data protection. And it is also becoming strict day by day. And also it depends on which countries or geography that we are operating. Especially with PII, government is very, very strict nowadays. Data privacy laws. So we're talking about change. Now, if we just go a little bit into change over methods, the methods we are using for change will also affect how much risk we are facing. For example, whether it is an expansion or acquisition or restructuring. Sometimes, let's say we are moving from an old software to a new software. A previous way of working is different and new way is totally different. Then that time company can go for a direct changeover. What is direct changeover? When old system is switched off and new system is on. So we are putting a complete full stop on the current one and we are moving to a new one. So usually it is suggested when we are moving to a totally different way of working. However, the problem is it is the most riskiest. Let's say the new one is not successful. We are not able to implement it properly, or we are not getting the advantages we want. So we can't come back. Therefore, it is considered most risky. However, on the other side, if you see, it is the cheapest method also. Why? Because you don't have to manage two things simultaneously. Apart from that, if we move to the next one, we have pilot. So as the name suggests, pilot, where one part of business changes over first, then rest business change over. So we see one of them. If it is successful, then we'll implement everywhere. Let's say we have 10 departments, so we'll be using in one department. If it is successful, then in the remaining 9 also we can do it. So if you see from risk perspective, it is a little bit less risky than the direct one. Cost perspective, little bit higher cost than the direct one. If you move to the third one, parallel running. Self-explanatory name, pilot and parallel. If you see the primary difference, parallel is we are managing two of them, or we can say it is totally opposite than direct. Here we want to run old system and new system run together unless we are completely confident. When we are running two systems, what happens? This will become cost. But if you see from risk perspective, risk is coming down. Then we have the third one, phase changeover, changing new system one part of a company at a time. It is very time consuming. But if you see what is the primary difference between pilot and phase, or why company will choose phase over pilot? If the entire change what we want to do in organization is similar, then pilot might work. Let's say every department is different. If something is successful in one department, might not be successful in other department, then pilot can lead to failure. So company can go for phase. So what is the correct changeover method? It totally depends on our organization, then risk appetite. To save the cost, we might go for direct, but we have to accept a lot of risk. To get better results or less risky approach, we can go for parallel, but it will be very expensive. So we need to decide which one has no risk. Everything has risk. Only thing is we can say high risk to low risk. The highest risk can be direct. Then after that, we can say pilot, then phase, and the lowest risk can be parallel. It's not like parallel doesn't have any risk. Maybe at least it will have financial risk of managing both. Or we need more resource, or effectiveness can be compromised. Then when we are coming up with the cybersecurity policies and everything, we need to have certain objectives. Because if we don't have an objectives, that means we don't have anything what we are achieving. What is our end goal? That is objective. So what is the primary objective when we are doing? So it can be known as CIA trait or ACI. What is that ACI? Availability, confidentiality, and integrity. Integrity can be divided into two things: integrity of data and integrity of processing. So the first aim of cybersecurity in our business is organization can make sales 24 hours a day. Technically, we want to be available 24 hours. Let's take YouTube as a company. They have to be available 24 hours. Amazon as a company. Imagine if they are not available for a few minutes also, they can lose millions of dollars. Or sometime customer flight and customer might never come back. Second thing is confidentiality. So whatever information we have, personal identifiable, business and confidential information, everything need to be safeguarded. From proprietary information to personal information, and it must be protected from unauthorized access and disclosure, including complying with privacy requirements. So we need to safeguard the information we are holding. It is our responsibility now. Especially if you see in healthcare, this becomes a very, very important topic. If the company or the healthcare institute is not complying with that, they can face legal consequences or they have to close down the business. Then integrity of data, integrity of processing. What does data means here? Organization must make sure they take steps to prevent unauthorized modification of or destruction of information. Let's say there is an e-commerce company and the employee or somebody gets in and change the delivery address. And now somebody is paying and other person is receiving the benefit. So that should not happen. So integrity of data should be there. Only the authorized person is allowed to modify it. Then integrity of processing, guarding against the improper use, modification or destruction of system. Similar to that, but here we have to use it for the same reason. Let's say we have acquired data to provide deliveries in e-commerce, but we are using it for marketing. We are making the information public or giving to other companies which are illegal and unethical. This can lead to problem. So if you're taking data for one reason, use it for the same reason. That is integrity of process. So this becomes very, very important. Whether you're writing an individual paper, P3, or you're writing strategy case study, this objectives you should know. Because going forward, everything you will see as controlling risk is part of a object. Ultimately, we have to achieve this. This is the bottom line, what we are trying to achieve. Now we'll look into types of cybersecurity risks. Technically, there are so many risks, and as we are going through this, there are new risks coming in the market. But we'll go through some of the fundamentals, which is part of our syllabus. First thing is, we are discussing types of malware here. So the first thing is ransomware. What is ransomware? The name says ransom. So they need something in return, usually financial return or in kind. It is designed to prevent business from accessing its data, information, or whole computer system until a specified amount of money is paid. So usually in this kind of attack, they'll have malware everywhere and we cannot access our data. That is a ransomware. Then the same use of malware can be in botnets. What is the difference here? These are networks of private computers that are infected with malware and controlled by a botnet agent. This is important. Designed to follow the attacker's instructions without the knowledge of the owner of the computer. Let's say, as an employee, I'm using this computer, but I will not have an power to control it. I'm highlighting it. I'm going to the next pages. But a botnet agent, a bot will control it. And who will control the bot? An agent will control. Maybe sitting in a different country altogether. That is botnet agent. So here they are not looking for money directly or financial return, but maybe they want to do some changes. So the type of attack can also give us some hint later on in forensic analysis and to see what was the reason for it. Let's say if it is a computer, they might benefit more from botnet. But if a third party may be ransom, they'll get direct money. Third one is Trojan. So Trojan is taken from a story, Trojan horse, if you know about it. If you don't know, Trojan is something which looks like a gift, something which is like a benefit, but when we open it, it's a problem. It's a risk. So this type of malware does a very similar thing. It pretends to be a useful piece of software while secretly releasing malware. Sometimes we go to certain website, we click on certain links. It looks very promising. It looks like, okay, we are lucky to have it, or we have won some lottery, we won some lottery like that. That is like a Trojan. And slowly malware is being coming or releasing into our system. Next one is malvertising. It is when online advertisement have malware written into the code. It can involve hiding the malicious code in legitimate online advertising networks and web pages. The code may direct the victim to a malicious site where the malware can be installed, or it may be directly infect the victim's computer. Usually you must have seen, for example, this company is giving a free shoes, Apple is giving a free mobile, just click on the link. Certain links are there. And some people fall for the trap, they click on the link and ultimately they'll have their system full of malware, or they can get sensitive information from our system. So usually one logic this hackers and this malware, this bad actors are using is social engineering. So what we can do to protect, we have in the next section, but just giving a hint, usually they do social engineering. So these things are designed as a part. They'll know the person. For example, in malvertising, if somebody is following a lot of sports, so they'll give something from sports. Somebody is following a lot of movies, so they'll give something related to the movies because they want to know what's their person interest. And maybe something which is in rarity. It's very rarely available. They'll make you feel lucky. So this should be all part of the training. Then viruses. What is the definition of virus? Virus means something which can endlessly replicate. Like we have COVID, unfortunately, a few years back. So it was virus. It's continuously replicate. Same thing here. A malware can come in and continuously replicate itself to infect the program. Sometimes it destroy data to the extent that we can never get it back, or we can never reuse it. Worm virus spread across network to infect other devices. So virus is actually a traditional thing. Therefore, we have a lot of antiviruses coming in. And again, how effective the antivirus is, that's a different topic of discussion. Then we have spyware. Spying on something. It designed to spy on victim system without being detected and gather information to send to the hacker. Usually it is very useful for the computer if they want to know what the other party is doing. There have been so many cases where the computers were trying to, look at the call, listen to the recordings and everything for the computers. Obviously, it's illegal. So things like that, spyware is trying to do in today's world. We have a lot of software already in the market, though it is said that it is available only for specific people. But yeah, it's there where people can spy on others. Keyloggers is one of them. Keyloggers are similar. Every keystroke typed by the victim is recorded and forwarded to the hacker. So why keyloggers can help? So keylogger can help in terms of, especially let's say it is for the password. So they will know what key they are pressing and ultimately they can get the password. Let's say it is a banking password or any other confidential information. Therefore, you must have seen certain banks, they want you to put password on the screen. They will not allow it from the system. On the screen, they'll give a password. And it will not be a QWERTY keypad. It will be in a different alphabetical order. Another thing, we have application attacks like DDoS, denial of service, or it can be distributed denial of service. So usually, it will overwhelm the system and the company cannot access their own data or their own system server will be down. And it can be useful again for the computers. Let's say it's an airline business and during December time, holiday time, their system is down. What will happen? They will lose the business, they'll lose the credibility, and this is the time they get most of the revenues. Why we should know about this attack? So if we know it, we can better safeguard it. The other thing is SQL, structured query language. Usually it is common for a company which has a very high database with a lot of database. It occurs when the attacker uses an unprotected input box on the company's website to execute a SQL query to the database via the input data from the client to server. If there is something, or if our employee or anybody inside doesn't follow the protocols or doesn't follow the trainings, this might happen. Why it is target on a very big companies, especially with a lot of data, because they'll go and again edit it, copy it, whatever they can. Then cross-site scripting attack, also known as XSS attack. So usually this happen when we visit another organization. Let's say to the supplier's organization, supplier's website, supplier system. The attacker uses a third-party web resources to run script in the victim's web browser or scriptable application. Maybe our website and everything is very safe. But what if we go to certain sites which are not? So that can affect us. Then buffer overflow attack. A buffer overflow attack occurs when an attacker sends a malicious program which deliberately overloads the system and starts overwriting existing data. Let's say some attack has happened, we are not even aware. They are coming and changing the information, changing the data. And if they do it, we might end up taking a wrong decision. Sometimes they'll overload, sometimes they will overwrite. It can happen. Imagine that we are using computer assisted audit technique, like in the previous chapter we have seen. And if this happen means they are overwriting the data, then the audit will be compromised. The quality of the audit, the effectiveness will be compromised. Who is behind that? Most of them, we call them hackers. Hackers have different categories. Again, we can divide them broadly into three: black, gray, and white. So when we talk about black hat hackers, they just are interested in the malicious intent. They don't do anything good. Obviously, they have more incentives. Gray hat hackers, they are opportunity seekers. Sometimes they'll do for good, sometimes they'll do for bad, as long as they're getting the monetary gain. White hat hackers, also known as ethical hackers. So these have been trained by our own team or the universities, where we want hackers who are ethical, who can understand what the black hat hackers can do and safeguard that. In short, we want to think like them to stop them. Usually they hack with the company's permission. They're trying to help the company understand what, this is a very important line, what a black hat hacker may try to do. Let's say we have made our control system and everything is ready. So white hat hacker can try to go in or compromise it. And if he or she is able to compromise, that means it is not up to the mark. Then we need to improve. So it can help in penetration testing and other factors. Coming to the next very interesting, social engineering. This is what I was referring to. Social engineering Usually it is used by the hacker to manipulate the employees. Like why anybody will go to that malvertising, why anybody will go to certain website. So they use social engineering. What is social engineering? To understand how the society operates, how usually human beings operate. First is reciprocity. If somebody does good to us, there is high probability we also want to give back. Let's say they gifted us on a birthday. There is high probability you might give them back a gift. Scarcity, a movie ticket, a ticket to a match. Their authority, they'll impersonate as certain authority. Consistency, they'll notice the consistency, and because when we are doing something consistently, we are not actually putting a lot of brain to that. Liking, if you like certain thing, if you dislike certain thing, that can also be used against us. Consensus, usually human beings want to go with the majority, what people think. A very good option, very good way to look at it is in the marketing also. If you go to certain websites, they will say trusted by millions, or they'll say this many millions are using. For example, in WhatsApp, if you open, they'll say WhatsApp is by now trusted by this many millions people. So what do you feel like? Okay, I'm not the first one, so let's go for it. Consensus. So like this, they engineer. So we need to train our employees for all of that, because the hackers are also studying. And based on that, they can do the phishing attack, fraudulent message to try to steal sensitive information. So what is the difference between phishing and spear phishing? There are two things. Phishing is, let's say, any employees of that organization or any organization. Spear phishing is specific, let's say the CFO, the CEO. That is specific user. So they might do a lot of social engineering to get into spear phishing. Let's say months of effort, because they want to target the main person. And usually this kind of social engineering phishing comes through social media. So company need to decide whether they need to be there on social media or not. Especially if you are doing B2B business, where you are not uh, contacting with the consumer direct. Let's say we are manufacturing battery, car battery especially, for electric vehicles. So we just need to maintain relationship with the companies, car manufacturers, not with the end users. Or we don't need to market ourselves so much there. So we need to decide. Opportunities offered by social media, there is a lot of upside as well. For example, advertising. A lot of companies use this, especially like we talk about e-commerce company, we have food delivery, we have like uh, platform like Ubers who work on micromobility, advertising. A lot of time free advertisement. In fact, in today's world, if something is very eye-catchy or interesting, people share themselves. It become viral. Advertising is a good thing. Brand development can happen. Big data analytics will get a lot of information. Method of listening to customer directly. Real-time information gathering, communication, recruitment and selection also happen many times. It's the same point. Risk of social media. I mean, there are so many opportunities, but there are similar risk as well. Some major risk can be human error. If somebody did some mistake, an individual, it can affect the company's reputation. Productivity can go. Data protection is difficult. Hacking can happen. Like we can be part of any social engineering attack. Reputation is a problem. Inactivity, cost. Technically, there is no cost. But if we see, there is a cost if something happens. If we put something which has been taken in a wrong way by the society and somebody put a legal case, a financial risk, a reputational risk, we have to invest our human resources, legal cost. Everything is a cost here. Risk of individuals is also there, like going viral for the bad reason, obviously. Intent trolling is very common nowadays. Employment, they can have issues with the employment. They can lose their job sometime. Maybe they don't mean what they said. It was just in a funny way. But that sarcastic comment can lead to a problem. Legal sanction can come in. Physical theft, it was a big issue. Still, sometime it happens. If somebody is going on holiday and they post, then the local, bad actors like thieves, they'll be aware, oh, this house is empty, we can go and target it. Identity fraud, again, it's a common thing. Permanence, whatever you post is there permanent. Sometimes we'll delete it, but still, what if somebody has taken screenshot? It's still exist, or if somebody has read or seen that. Moving on to the next one, risk of security vulnerabilities. So here we are talking about an organizations, what we can do proactively or what we should have done proactively. For example, by default, we can have technical deficiencies. For example, we don't have proper encryption. We didn't have a proper procedure. Physically, we never took care of fire, flood, or physical security. This can also be a problem. These are like basic things. And if this happens, it will directly affect our objective. Downtime, customer flight, industry consequences can happen, lead to legal consequences, reputational damage, sometime a legal consequence. GDPR, in Europe, we have General Data Protection Regulation. Like this, every country will have its own. So GDPR has replaced the previous law, which was strict, but the current one is even more stricter. And there is a lot of changes coming in now. As we are reading this, it's 25, but this again like 2018. So we can assume there are a lot of new changes coming up. But the logic remains the same. GDPR has two main objectives. First is protection of fundamental rights. Fundamental rights of an individual, which is given by the local constitution of each country, like right to choice, freedom of speech, and all of this. Protection of the principle of free movement of personal data within EU, Europe. Other thing can be lawful and responsible use of personal. It's very important. If companies taking data, it's their responsibility to use it for lawful things and responsibly. It should not go into the wrong hands. Let's say companies take credit card, debit card details, and if it goes to the wrong hand, means people will lose their money, right? It also looks at the appropriate collection of data. Just because data can be collected doesn't mean it should be. Very important. Sometimes, like, everyone is collecting data, but if they don't need it or if it is not part of the service, why they need it? They should be careful. However, in certain cases, it is allowed. Like if it is for the national security, related to the ethics, or in certain regulated professions, like special case. What is the enforcement if somebody doesn't comply? 10 million or 2% global income. Failure to implement measures to ensure privacy by design and default. Let's say we didn't have a design or default itself. Then we have a fine of 10 million or 2% of global economy. Second is even double, 20 million or 4% of global income. Global income, not economy. Failure to comply with principle of lawfulness, individual rights or conditions for consent. Like we did it, but purposely we did certain mistake or we ignored certain things. And now this is also a criminal case. It was usually supposed to be a civil thing, but it's now criminal. Unauthorized access. Let's say our own employees does that. He or she can face 6 months imprisonment or fine. Unauthorized access with intent to commit or not to commit. Knowingly causing unauthorized modification. Up to 5 years imprisonment. So very strict regulation. Because many times an individual employee is involved in. Okay. So that's it from this chapter. In the next one, we'll see the cyber security process. So that's it for today.